Welcome to the PEG Access Advisory Committee meeting for December 2nd. My name is Carlin Reed. I'm the chair of the committee. I just want to let you all know that this meeting is being recorded. Let's start off the meeting with a roll call of the members who are present. I'm Carlin Reed. And next, Vince Carlson, please say here.
Here.
And Court Booth.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum of 3. Out of a 5-member committee, we should be seeing Corey Atkins and Scott Hopkinson join us shortly. Okay, first thing I want to do is take a look at, and here comes Corey right now. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at the minutes from the last meeting, the November 4th meeting. And I know that that the minutes were sent out just this morning. Hi, Corey. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We're just starting the minutes from November 4th. I don't know if anyone besides me has had a chance to take a look at these things, but I have looked at them and I can do a screen share of what the minutes from the November 4th meeting look like. And then I have a couple of typos, but that was about it. But I'm willing to take the sense of the committee on whether or not you want to feel comfortable looking and reviewing at the November 4th minutes now, or if you want to wait until the next meeting. Court, do you have a particular preference?
If there's nothing pressing, I think we should wait, give us time to digest them.
Okay.
But you looked at them recently. Is there anything that anybody needs to see officially posted? Would it be useful to any other audience?
Well, the minutes are always useful.
I know, but I mean, is there anything time sensitive in your opinion from this perspective of people observing us, shall we say?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Given that, I'd be very happy to wait until January. Okay.
Corey, how about you? Are you okay with holding off on the minutes until the January meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
I'm whatever people want to do.
Good. That sounds good. Scott, you're just joining the meeting now. We just received the minutes earlier this morning. This is from the November meeting, so I'm going to postpone that until January meeting to review and approve. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. All right, then that's what I'm going to do. We're going to postpone the minutes until the January meeting. So we're not going to vote on that right now. But we do have that. If you have any edits, let me know, please. We'll take a look at them at the January call. All right, just to give an overview of what we're going to be doing today. We have the full committee here. So yes, at some point before everybody leaves, we're going to take a screenshot as our committee photograph for the annual report. We also have Greg Franks from Comcast here. He's going to be giving us an update on all things Comcast. And then we're going to be looking at hearing from Mark Polly from MMN for an update there. And we'll take a look at the draft annual report. Plus, we'll get an update from the Fiber Broadband Task Force committee member delegate that we have on that. And that's Scott Hopkinson. So that's kind of the overview of what we're going to be looking at today. All right. Before we start that, though, let me double check. We've done that. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 6th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon by Zoom. Is that time and date still okay with the committee members? And I'll go Court first. Court's good. Corey, are you still okay with January 6th? Corey's okay. Scott, what about you? Are you okay with January 6th at 1 o'clock?
Yes. I mean, my only comment is that my preference would be if we would be able to do these in the evening, but that's so my ability to attend during the day is somewhat subject to my work schedule.
Okay. All right.
I will try and block it out and given a little bit of warning. Let me see if I can block it out. So the short answer is yes. See
what you can do. If it comes to be a real issue, I think it's going to be really important that we're all here for the budget discussion in March. So that one we might change. But for right now, let's do the Thursday, January 6th. Vince, are you okay with that date and time, January 6th at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Okay, so that'll be the next meeting. All right. Okay. Right about now, I'd like to turn the floor over to Greg so we can talk about all things Comcast. I have about six or seven questions relating for him, but I want to have him give a chance to give his presentation first and then have the committee ask questions about it. And then after the committee is done, if any member from the audience wants to ask a couple questions, I'll allow that as well. So you get a chance to get that in. Okay, so that's where we are right now. And Greg, the floor is yours. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much. I actually don't really have, something prepared to talk about. There are a lot of things sort of going on. It depends on really what you're interested in. Maybe you should just launch into your questions.
Okay, all right. Does any committee member want to go up, or shall I just launch?
Launch.
I'm okay with you starting.
Launching first, okay. Are there any, well, let's do the first thing. Do you know what the current subscribership numbers are for Concord?
5,000.
5,000?
Yeah. 4,993.
So what's everybody else doing? Are there options?
Well, 4,993 compares pretty favorably with households of what, 6,500?
It's more like 7,300. There was a housing
73?
units, 70.
Because of all the units, the new units. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And these are video subs.
And we're just talking about cable. That's all. Just talking about cable. Okay. All right. That's good to know.
But I think to Corey's point, in that number, does that represent trends that you see? And if so, minor, major, status quo with like communities, Greg?
I mean, yeah. Cord cutting is real. It's a real phenomenon, but
What is?
in a lot of,
Sorry.
I beg your
I'm
pardon?
sorry. What's,
It's a cord cutting.
what's that?
Going
Um,
wireless. Going through the
Streaming.
internet instead of through cable.
Streaming services like
Oh,
Netflix.
is that what they mean by streaming?
Or cord cutting, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I couldn't figure that out. I just get it on my TV.
Right. Well,
Because
I
you
can-
have not cut your cord. Yeah.
I'm not cutting any cords. Not at 7 years old.
but back to the question, it's I think things are pretty stable in Concord. And at a certain point, I was on a call yesterday hearing about the cost for some of the linear channel services, streaming services, and they're comparable to cable. So, my boss likes to say he's been in the business 30 years, and the whole time they've been talking about the end of cable, and it still hasn't happened. So, we'll see where it goes. But I think things are stable in Concord.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Next question I have is, are there any Concord residences that are not passed by Comcast's cable TV service?
I'm sure there are. We actually don't know all of the unserved areas or keep track of homes that don't have service. We sort of count on developers to let us know where the new homes are. Occasionally I'll hear from someone, say on a private way that's not served, and they want a quote to find out, how much is it. But yeah, just to get to the point, I don't know where the unserved areas are. This is a question that's come up in the Carlisle renewal. So it would be great actually if communities would collect the information and sort of keep track of it, since that's an area that is of common concern. I hear that a lot. Where are the homes that aren't passed? I'm not sure. We'd have to maybe get together with or send a strand map to the assessor's office or something like that. Someone would have to work on it.
Okay. All right.
Greg, how do you keep track of, apartment buildings?
Same thing. I mean, our salespeople are on the lookout. I know there are people in the business who are on the lookout for new development, and frequently we'll hear from them. We'll contact them before they contact us, but if it's something new, then we're on it. And I don't think there are any, we call them MDUs, multiple dwelling units or apartment buildings, that we don't cover in Concord. I could be mistaken, but I don't believe so.
I'm wondering about vacancies, when a vacancy comes up. Do you know it when, people cancel a subscription and then it's kind of flagged for some kind of sales activity on your part?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that happens. I mean, I don't get involved with that, but our sales team does.
Okay, next question I have. Why do Concord and Carlisle share 3 channels? Why doesn't each town have its own set of 3 channels? Under the franchise, each franchise agreement says 3 PEG channels for Concord, 3 for Carlisle, but here they're combined. Why are they combined?
My understanding, I don't know. If the I'm actually not aware. Actually, what I thought, Concord had 2 channels, a public and a government channel, and then it shared the ed channel with Carlisle. That's not what happens?
No, but what has happened over time is that you have built in the capacity to allow Carlisle to override Concord if Concord has foreknowledge. Am I right, Carlin? Because if we had something really significant in Carlisle, like a town meeting, we would want to allow them to preempt Concord.
I'm going to defer that actually to Mark Polly if he wants to butt into here, because I know you can't duck it when you come to these meetings, Mark. You're the station manager. How does that work?
No, I'm only acting like a station manager.
Good. Please keep acting that way.
Yeah, you look like one, you sound like one.
So in the last 3 years, we've tried to never preempt anybody, and if there is town meetings that happen to be on the same night, we really make a point of having the towns reschedule them. So as in the past 3 years, there's never been a town meeting that's been on the same day in order for us to have that hard decision. That being said, we will hijack the government channel if there's 2 events going on, both that are government related, and we'll move it to, one being on the government and one being on the public. And I've never had 3 events happen in one night, but theoretically we could even take the school committee and just move them over to the education channel. So I don't know that there's any hard rules, but we've always tried to balance it that way. So.
Well, the short answer is I don't know. I didn't do the last license. That's before my time, and I got to be honest with you, probably haven't looked at the license in years. So it really depends on what it says in there about PEG channels. And
Okay, well, we've been
if
looking
there's a
at
desire for more and it's allowed, then we should talk about it.
Would it have anything to do with us sharing a head end in Maynard? A technical.
Not really. I mean, you could. I mean, it might have something to do with you sharing a studio, and sort of that hub in where I believe everything goes through in the high school. And I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
I don't know. I always thought Concord had some way of. I mean, Carlisle had some way of switching their stuff. And it's strange this hasn't come up in the renewal over there. So,
Well, I think we have a video posted on our YouTube channel for the Carlisle Select Board for November 23, where this point comes up about how there's 3 channels that's shared between Concord and Carlisle, and Carlisle kind of wants their own. It sounds like.
want their own channel.
So
Okay.
that's why I'm not doing their advocacy, that's their job. But I'm just letting you know what it prompted that question in my mind of, okay, why do we share 3 channels?
Mhm.
Okay. Next question I have here is, we've received your 626 renewal letter, so we're kind of getting geared up to do the renewal process. But what's your personal timeline for the renewal process? We're not the only town doing it. Ours expires April 2024.
Right.
So we've got about 2.5 years. Where are we in your pecking order? Because like I say, you have other towns doing it.
That year, I have 4 towns in front of you. But I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. Some towns, I have a couple of meetings with them and we have an agreement. Other towns, you know, it drags on. So it's hard to know how it goes. You know, I'm required to send a formal proposal 120 days prior to expiration. So at the very latest, you know, you'll get some proposal from me then. But you know, usually we start talking beforehand, especially if the town is, you know, wants to do it and wants to set up time. So I'm, you know, I'll sit down and talk with the town at any time.
Okay. All right, I'll relay that. Go ahead, Court.
Yeah, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here, so whoever can correct me. The town manager can execute a contract up to 3 years, but we have on occasion gone to town meeting for a 10-year. If I'm correct so far, then we look at April 24, that's a town meeting month, which means were we to want to bring a extended contract before a town meeting, we'd need it wrapped up by December of 23 for purposes of warrants. Does that sound right to you, Carlin? You're on
All
mute.
right, the timing is right. I know that's a great symbol. I love that. The timing is right, Court. I also know that Carlisle just got a 6-month extension on their renewal process. Now they may have, that may come into play because theoretically, for example, we could have a town meeting set for May 1 of 2024 and our renewal license expires April 21, a couple of weeks earlier. So we could ask for an extension after that, beyond that, to cover that. I hate getting extensions because I used to have to give them. It's no fun. But I'll turn it over to Greg. What about if we were to shoot for having a resolution of the contract by December of 2023, the December beforehand? How would that work with your schedule, Greg? Because we're looking at it now, we're gearing up the process. We understand some of what needs to be done, but it depends on when you're ready to listen to us, really.
I'm ready to listen, you know, whenever you're ready to talk. I would say, you know, unless there's something unusual in your town charter, the issuing authority is the Board of Selectmen, and the Cable Act allows them to issue a 10-year license. So normally it doesn't, you know, it doesn't touch town meeting. So if that's your concern about timing, I don't think that comes into play. I mean, you'd want to ask town council. Or...
Yeah, Corey, I'll get you in just a minute. Yes, Court, we're going to check with town council about this because the select board is the actual licensing authority, not the town manager. But we're doing with a contract that is for several millions of dollars worth. So we get that clarified with our town council on how they want to proceed. Okay, Corey, go ahead.
I'm just wondering about the technology is changing so rapidly. Why would we want to go into a decade-long contract?
Okay,
I know doing contracts is probably a real pain in the neck, but you know, who knows what things change every day now.
Yeah.
And
well, that's a good point, and that's a discussion for the committee, but it would be interesting to see at least what the current practice is with Comcast. Now, Greg, is Comcast doing shorter than 10-year renewals for the last, say, 12 months? In the last 12 months, have you executed any contracts for a shorter time than 10 years?
Sometimes you see like a 5-year license. I mean, we prefer to do a 10-year license. Verizon is doing 3-year licenses.
That makes sense.
You know, I'm not gonna speak for Verizon and what they're doing, but we feel that that wired line is gonna be necessary no matter what for the next 10 years. So we don't plan on getting rid of it. I don't see what there is to lose in doing a 10-year license. It is expensive usually for the town to gear up and do ascertainment and hire counsel. So I think that's why most towns, and certainly Comcast, likes to have it done and, you know, move on for the next 10 years. I've had short licenses. I have Waltham coming up that it feels like I just did it. So.
Who has short licenses? What towns are you working with?
Like Waltham just came up. They had a 5-year license and I
Okay.
just sat down with them. So, you know, we did it. We finished it in oh, that can't be right. Waltham, yeah, March of 17. And now we're sitting down to renew it again. So of course they have in-house counsel there, so things are a little different. But most towns do 10 years. We like to do 10 years. If you want to do shorter, then I guess we can talk about it.
And that's the point, Corey, is that it can be a negotiating point, part of our discussion when we actually sit down and talk about, okay, what do we want to do? Court, go ahead.
I think we only have as much a seat at the table as town government gives us, given that we're advisory on this. I mean, I think they're ready to give us a seat at the negotiating table. One of the early questions that select board have to ask and answer, usually on advice of town manager, is do they bring in an attorney who's practiced in this stuff or not? Some years we have, some years we haven't.
Okay.
So that's, I think, an inquiry you're going to have to make on our behalf, Carlin.
Right. Well, I could ask Greg right now, what counsel are you?
No, it's not his call. No.
No, I'm just asking for information about who is dealing with now. I'm not saying who should we, who is dealing with. No, I understand the point, Court. Greg, who are you dealing with now?
There's a small group of consultants that we deal with, and you know, if you want a list, I mean, it's not a long list. There's 3 or 4 gentlemen who do it now. Carlisle hired Sue Buskey to do their negotiating. Bill Hewig from Copeland and Page is a guy I see a lot.
Okay, I know those 2 names. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, and Mark, thanks for the card. Appreciate that as well. That's good. Under the terms of the franchise agreement, there is a requirement to extend lines to all town-owned buildings. And one of the buildings that we're in the process of considering creating is a new middle school, Greg. And I didn't know if you knew about that. Court, if my timeline is wrong, correct me, but I think the construction timeframe is the end of 2024, and with occupancy in early part of 2025. Correct. And that to me would be a major project that you might be interested in. Court, is that about the right time frame?
You're correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's probably worth mentioning that the new building is planned to be on the same site as the Sanborn School, and they will coexist with the Sanborn School until the new building's built. So it should be a fairly straightforward activity there. I'm not trying to speak for Comcast, but it is on the same physical site as Sanborn.
We already have service there.
Yeah, I should imagine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Okay.
not a big deal.
So that's a heads up to you, Greg, about one of the items that we'll be talking about getting that dropped to the middle school.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. What's Comcast's current practice on providing PEG channels on high definition on HD?
It's a negotiable item at renewal.
Do you have any towns at this point that have put their PEG channels on HD as part of their contract?
I think I want to say I know that one of the towns does. I think it's Norwood, one of my towns, has an HD PEG channel. There's a lead time to put the equipment in and activate the channel. But I'm sure that there are some that have it now.
Okay. All right, Scott, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I can wait till the end of your questions. It's
No,
not
fine.
urgent. I just, okay.
Jump in. Go ahead.
So this is just kind of a question that came up as related to some of the other work that I've been working on. I'm curious, Greg, if you can answer. Comcast has provided what I would call market development funds, which is basically you guys gave money to one of the housing groups, the Concord Green, in return for having exclusive rights for advertising in their office. Can you tell us about other places that you've done the same thing?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, another question I have. We talked about putting PEG channels on a high definition. What about putting the PEG schedule on the Comcast electronic program guide? And I know Mark Pauly and I have talked about this a little bit, about so that people can turn on the TV and turn on the channel guide and see what's going on with the PEG channel, rather than just saying local program. It actually has the schedule. Is that something that Comcast is doing now? Great. And that's
No, unfortunately, we don't. It's not a cost issue. It's a technology issue. The issue being that we serve a variety of number of towns out of a single head end, and they share a channel map. So I don't know all of the towns off of your head end, so I'm probably going to give wrong information in my example. But let's suppose Concord, paid a service to put that signal in, which can be done. If we accepted that signal, then all of the towns on the head end that share the PEG channel map would receive Concord's information. So it'd only be accurate in one town. That's sort of the short answer for why that happens.
Lori, did you have something to follow up on that? Go ahead.
I don't. Where's Mark? Are you up here?
Mark's there.
I'll pass.
Okay, the lady from Concord Green passes for the moment. Got it. Or you're not a Concord Green anymore, Corey.
Yeah, I am a Concord Green.
Okay, fine. Good. All right, Scott, did you have some other questions or a follow-up? Go ahead, Scott.
No, that was just the one I was curious about, just to hear a little bit about the activity. And I understand that I realize that Greg may be separated from the sales side of Comcast. So I just was curious about that aspect of it. I do appreciate the information that you provided. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. David, I do see your hand up. Hold on just a second. I've got one more question to ask, and then I'll turn over to see if there are any other committee member questions, and then we'll do public. The question I have for you, Greg, talks about, have you been receiving complaints about Comcast's cable TV service or rates lately?
None that have reached me. I'm sure the people who are in the call center at Chelmsford hear issues, but I haven't had anything in Concord that has risen to my level. You know, sometimes that happens. Someone doesn't get satisfaction from customer service, and they call town hall or city hall, and the issue comes to me. So occasionally that does happen. Or there is, you know, a neighborhood with bad service for some reason. Sometimes that will make its way to me. I haven't heard any of those in Concord. That doesn't mean it's not happening, that there aren't some unhappy customers. I don't know.
Okay, all right, that's it for my questions. Any other committee member questions before I open up the floor? All right, Vince, go ahead.
Greg, on the schools, how does the funding work on that? Doesn't part of that come through the Universal Service Fund, or is that negotiable, or what?
When you say schools, what specifically do you mean?
Well, we were discussing a new middle school, for instance. So, you know, and obviously Sanborn has got it now. So who pays for that? Does Comcast pay for any segment of that?
Oh, I see. Yeah, we're required by law to connect public buildings. So somehow that's, I don't know how we account for that. But it's not something that shows up in the franchise related cost or anything like that. I assume it's just
We get a
general
bill.
overhead.
Vince.
Oh, well, how about the ongoing service?
We're invoiced for it like a business customer. In fact, I think Mark, you're invoiced for it too, for the high school.
I might be, but Erin might see it. I don't see it. So.
Okay.
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 So is that at a business rate? What is?
It depends on what you're getting. If you know, every public building will get one TV with basic service for free. But frequently, you know, people want many more than one TV, or they want more than basic service. And it's all, as far as I know, discounted. It may end up being a business class service. Certainly, you know, schools or towns can buy that. But if you're just taking that basic service, that generally does not go through business services. That's my understanding. Again, I don't see the bills. I don't put them out, so I don't know.
Okay, anything else, Vince?
Well, speaking of basic service, for residential basic service, does residential basic service have HD now?
That's a good question. I mean, I think basic service is considered if you look at the cheapest product that's on the rate card, you know, that's a standard definition product.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of the one that's wired into the contract. I think it's $12 a month or something like that.
Right, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Vince?
No.
Okay, Corey, did you have anything else? Or Scott? Okay, all right, David, you've
No.
got your hand up. Go ahead, David. You have a question for Greg. Go ahead, David.
Good afternoon. Back on this question of the program guide and displaying what's actually on the channels, obviously quite important for viewership. And I really appreciate Greg's going into detail about the impediment there. And certainly this would mean some effectively capital investment. I don't think, frankly, a particularly large amount, but it would mean some capital investment in breaking out individual towns and the potential for their input into the program guide. It strikes me for these PEG channels really quite important. I want to introduce that idea, among other things, get Greg's thoughts about how negotiation might go, in which we thought that obviously it would impact not just us, but other towns, really all other towns, to the extent that Comcast implemented it. But strikes me that needs to be on the table big time, actually.
Mhm. Yeah.
Sure, I hear from it every time I sit down for renewal. That's a common request.
I see. Okay.
But, you know, to offer that to all the communities in Greater Boston and to make space in the head ends to do that, I'm actually not convinced that that would be a minor capital investment. I do, you know, I have heard rumblings, and I'm not a technical person, but that you know, some technological advances, you know, may be on the horizon that could make it possible. And I have agreed, you know, and of course I would always do that if the town was to sit down and talk about it and say, hey, you know, we heard that such and such town, we heard Chelmsford got the electronic programming guide. You know, what about us? You know, of course I would sit down and talk with you about that, whether it's renewal or not. But that's the type of thing that we would generally agree to in a renewal, that, you know, we can sit down and talk about the technological and financial feasibility of doing that every year or two, something like that.
Okay, thanks. Court, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Court.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Greg,
finished, actually, but
Well,
Well, I
we'll
think
come
just
back to you. David,
to
we'll come
pick
back to
up-
you in just a moment. Go ahead, Court.
yeah,
Right.
just picking up on David's point. Irrespective of negotiations, let's think about it from a business perspective, from the Comcast angle. If I want to know what's playing on local cable, I have to leave local cable and go on the net, get my answer, and then come back to cable. So I'm actually leaving the Comcast ecosystem. So it seems as if it might be kind of self-defeating to send your viewers to the internet, expecting they're going to come back.
Okay. Good point. Good point. David, let's go back to you. Go ahead and finish.
Good. Greg, I'm most appreciative of your laying it out as clearly as you can see it. Happens, I am a technical person, but not nearly as technical as one of the other committee members on here. Familiar items to us, that is to say. And I'll notice that we here in this household pay Comcast just short of $400 a month. We had that number up. It ain't chump change, even slightly. And you multiply across the 5,000. Those are monstrously large numbers, actually. And the truth of the matter is to sort out that head end so it does, frankly, the right thing. Relative to the capital investment, it's not a big thing, in simple words. This is, to be blunt about it, a failing that should have been fixed a long time ago. And this needs to happen. Again, Greg, I really appreciate your going to it straight on. Thanks.
Thank you, David. All right. Any other public comments from members of the public for Greg? Frank, do you have your hand up? Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, yeah, I can just go quickly the history there. When before CCTV started, there was Lincoln and Carlisle were getting the same channel 8 from our high school. And then immediately when Comcast got out of the business, the Lincoln made their own station and has been doing that ever since. And then Carlisle joined in with CCTV. The selectmen agreed to pay, you know, their share of the bill for CCTV, and that's where it, you know, then the town manager kind of killed CCTV, and that's where they are today. But I just wanted to ask Mr. Franks there, what you know, they had that idea of charging extra for you know, greater use of internet Is that when, then that immediately seemed to go away, and I'm wondering if that's gonna come back, or what's the story on that?
No, I'm glad to say I haven't heard anything about that coming back. Whoever thought that was a good idea, I don't know.
I have to agree with that. Any other public comments before we move on to the next segment of our agenda? All right,
Oh, Carl and I had another question.
go ahead, Vince.
Greg, on the various COVID subsidies, the broadband discount, for instance, for subscribers. Do you have any forecast on what's going to happen there? When it does finally disappear, how much notice will people get?
So I guess there is already a plan. So the EBB $50 a month benefit is expiring, I think, next year, and people are going to be transitioned into what's called ACP, which I think is I don't know if it's affordable connectivity program or something like that, and it's now a $30 benefit, but it's more or less permanent.
Okay.
And we also have some other things in the works that I can't make public now, but we're always enhancing our Internet Essentials program, and that's still there. It's still $10 a month. The speeds have gone up, and we are, like I said, hoping to make some improvements. I can't talk about just yet, but hopefully coming soon.
How
Okay,
fast are the speeds on the Internet Essentials going up to, if you don't mind me asking?
50 over, I think it's 50 over 3.
50 up, 3 down. I'm down, 50 down, 3 up.
Right.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Actually, I think it's 60 over 5.
I hope
They
so. That's
doubled-
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot they doubled it, I think, pretty early on, actually. And was 20, well, it may be 50, it was 25 before, I remember. 25 and
Well, those are both plenty
3, and now it's 50 and 5, yeah.
Just to put that in perspective, high def TV probably consumes about 16, which means 60 megabit should be good for at least 3 channels of high def simultaneously. That's pretty darn good.
And people now can use their ACP benefit or their EBB benefit to pay for, better speed if they want to. So they don't have to stick with Internet Essentials. If they want to take that $30 and spend it on something more robust, they can do that.
I help support some folks that are in that category.
Okay, folks, I'm going to do a quick time check. It's 1:46. We still have a bunch of things on our agenda. I'm about ready to wrap up Greg's presentation section, unless there's some other cable-related questions for Greg, or Greg, unless you've got something else that you want to let us know about. Greg, what do you think?
I think it's been a great discussion, as always.
Okay.
Happy to come back whenever you want.
Okay, well, we'll be sure to take you up on it. Thank you very much, Greg. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Corey, did you have something else you wanted to say? No, okay. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or leave, whatever you choose. But thank you very much for coming today. Okay,
My pleasure.
appreciate that. Okay, let's turn on to the next thing of the agenda. Now you have something, Corey. Go ahead. And unmute. Yes. Nope, you're still muted.
Sorry, they had leaf blowers going here, so I muted. I'm sorry, I found that wasn't a presentation. That representative from Comcast was the most remarkably uninformed person I have ever heard before a board. Did anybody else have that impression?
Keep in mind, this is being videotaped and recorded.
Okay,
Duly noted, understood what you're saying very much. And
Okay.
it's obvious that we need to present questions to get information. And that's one of the things we'll work on as we do our Comcast renewal and for every time that we do have the Comcast representative come to visit us.
Yeah, on the upside, it was an open, frank conversation. On the downside, he couldn't prepare because we didn't give him questions in advance because we assumed that he would
he knows.
prepare a report on what was new and different and so on. So I guess we've got to accommodate each other differently next time.
Yeah, from my viewpoint, I actually got the information I was very interested in. Subscriber information, a little bit about where they're going. We have just, Corey, in the past, we have asked them some longer range forward looking questions and they've declined to comment. So I would have expected the same results this time. For example, one consideration that PEG has taken around all this is that our franchise fee is tied to the number of wired connections. We know that the technology is starting to support the notion of doing wireless connections to homes. And we've asked Comcast pretty much straight up, are you considering transitioning from coaxial cable to a wireless connection, which in turn we believe would reduce their franchise fee, which in turn would defund the PEG access activity? This is our working thesis, and they've been very coy about answering any questions around that. Even though we prepared them for those questions, they basically declined to answer them.
May I ask a question of Mark?
Sure.
Mark, you know, I'm not a technical person, but I'm around things. For them to list our programming, I thought he made sound extraordinarily complicated. And I thought, when I go to guide on my TV, there's a ton of things. And so I didn't believe that. Did you?
Well, I think there's two pieces of it. There's providing the information in a weekly, daily, monthly, whatever period of time in a format that is acceptable to a service that Comcast uses. And that service was a $5,000 a month service. And at this conversation, it escapes me the name of it, but it's, I did a whole thing in it. Anyways, and then once we provide that information through that service, they provide it to Comcast that links it to our channels. So I don't understand his comment about the head end being supported by multiples. That's in their bowels of their system. So without any knowledge of that, I can't comment whether that's true or not. So.
Okay, well, Mark, while you have the floor, how about if we launch into your section? If you have any particular updates from MMN, we'll get through to that. So go ahead, Mark.
Sure, I'll just be quick. This month we did 38 Zoom conversions, Zoom meeting conversions to be published. We did 20 events this past month, actually in November. 8 town meetings, 2 for Carlisle school committee meetings, finance committee meetings, and then we did 12 other events that were not government related, that were public, and also some private events that we got paid for. So that's kind of a synopsis of what happened in November. We did lose the use of one of our part-time videographers. So we're down to 3, and one is pretty consistent and the other 2 are pretty inconsistent. So that's just trying to think, was there anything else to kind of highlight? Oh yeah, we've been working with the middle school. We brought equipment over a few times to them set up and let their AV club at the middle school actually operate the cameras. They were trained for a few hours, and then we came back again. They stepped right up and they took over the cameras, and we really focused on smooth movements and tight shots and wide shots and panning and all that good stuff. And they stepped up to perform very well. They recorded their middle school chorus. And I was very impressed with a little bit of fooling around at the beginning, but once they showed up for the actual event, they were right on, professional. We just put headphones on them and just, told them what to do. And, they did it. We didn't touch a camera, and very excited about that. Next week, we have 2 more events here at the high school with a combination of those, high school chorus and 7th grade and 8th grade chorus. 2 different nights. And again, the kids themselves will be on the cameras and they'll be producing it. Just now I got sent a request to have that live streamed, and I've got to figure out whether that's something that we would do. So, but anyway, so it's been a good month. A lot of work, a lot of stuff going on.
Sounds like it. Okay, Scott, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank you guys, Minuteman Media Network, for supporting not only this meeting, but the Fiber Completion Committee that's been going at the pace of once per week. So I know we've created some extra demand on you. Really appreciate the summary you just gave us of all the different things you're supporting. So thank you. I did have a quick question about the paid customer activities. Can you just, without giving us the specifics, can you tell us the nature of these things, and do they generate, what's the nature? Do you generate revenue from this? So just kind of curious more than anything.
Yeah, so there's a policy that if the content that a community member or a business is asking us to help them with, that doesn't fall into that public use kind of format, we decline to do it, or we offer our services for the standard pricing that the town has currently, which is $50.75 an hour per person, and then we provide the equipment and we provide the service, but they keep the content. And we've recently discovered that there's a lot of demand for live streaming with some of the equipment that we've recently purchased. And I think we're going to be in kind of a town negotiation for making that a little bit more robust for the price structure, so that if there's more intent on using more equipment, that it would cost a little bit more. So and it's been at all the local, not all, but it's been with the local businesses that are doing either art shows or other things that they want to stream, and they're actually charging for. So we charge them in order to not get that content, because it's not public. So.
Yeah, there's also interesting. I noticed there's a lot of real estate firms that are using things of that nature as well. Do you see that? So how many, just give me a sense and scale of it, how many hours were billed over some period of time, or what percentage of your time? Just curious.
Yeah, I think I just sent that out the other day. Let me just see. It's probably like 10 hours per event, and there were 3 events, so it's probably 30 hours this past month.
Okay.
Something like that. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a rough sense of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, other committee questions for Mark? Go ahead, Court, and then Corey, if you have anything else.
You just lost one of your videographers, and if I'm correct, with 3 town meetings coming up, and we're in the middle of the school year, things really come to a head in terms of the pace. Give me a sense of how strapped you're going to be. Are we going to be able to keep up?
Well, I think with the town meeting being spread across the possibly 4 rooms, I was anticipating having the main room covered 100% of the time, and then having whoever's left to be either floaters in the other room, because we don't need full-time cameramen in the other rooms, but we also have the option of having whoever is the contractor for the audio system to at least pay attention to what's going on. But but the remote rooms were pretty much going to be a microphone in front of a camera and then a floater that would be around, but not a lot of movement from those cameras. In fact, no movement. It would just be if you're in front of the camera and you want to talk, then you talk to the main room and all the rest of the room. So I was going to attempt to try to either get volunteers or get all hands on. So.
And you need wide shots on the rooms in order to get show of hands just to verify votes, do you not?
Yeah, good point.
As
Yeah, I
that,
didn't think. Yeah, I didn't think that through all the way. So if we need that, then there would have to be a camera operator doing something. Yeah, either a wide and then unless the questions can be done in the lower corner and it's correctly framed so that they're.
yeah, that framing is good enough, but the moderator is going to want to be able to put these votes to bed.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Are they all in the high school, all the rooms?
All the rooms are in the high school. We're going to use the fiber in the building and augment it with some fiber run down hallways and things if we need to. But yeah, it was going to be 4 separate rooms in the school.
I was just wondering about the adequacy of the equipment, not necessarily using the room, but the adequacy of the equipment. For instance, over at, Kai's Road, it's been used for some committee meetings. But, they're unattended at this point. The camera is, not great and the microphones aren't great, but they're not exactly terrible. But if they were upgraded a little bit, would that kind of a setup work, in terms of alleviating?
Well, possibly. I mean, yeah, we're talking about pretty big rooms. We're talking about, cafeteria, they're large rooms. And so there is the sound system will be brought in with an outside vendor and then we'll coordinate both audio and video with them. And then, the gym, the cafeteria, and then there's another room, multi-purpose room down the hall. So, and we have cameras to do all of that. So, we should be fine.
Yeah, those are big rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, let's do a time check. It's 2:00. Now, Corey, did you have anything else for Mark? Because we're still on the MMN update.
I'll call him separately.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the committee members for Mark or for the MMN update? All right, then what I'm going to do is what I'd like to do is switch to the next agenda item at this point, and that's the draft PEG annual report. But before I do that, I want to take a screenshot for our annual report because we have everybody here. And yes, Mark, you have to show.
Wrong button. Wrong button. It wasn't me, Corey. I didn't do it. All right.
Either that other guy did. Yeah, all of a sudden I went blank. I went, oh, okay.
I just thought I was blacking out again.
Okay, truly, I have no idea what happened or why that happened.
Did we pay our Comcast bill?
As soon as I threatened about taking a picture, you all dive.
All of us died?
Yes, yeah, the whole thing.
Everything dies.
I
Gone.
thought you sent me off because I wasn't part of the committee and I didn't want to be have my picture taken.
I
That's what
didn't
I
touch
thought.
a thing. I swear, I didn't touch a thing. Okay.
Neither did I.
Oh no. Okay. Now that we're laughing, quick. What I'm going to do is take a screenshot. Everybody smile. Look at the camera. Okay. I'm going to give you a count. Ready?
All right.
All right. It's going to be 1, 2, 3. Okay. That actually looks really good. Fine. All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Carlin, I'm going to move over to my phone, but I'll be in the meeting.
Good. Okay. Let me get this saved here. And so I can get back to the meeting. All right. Desktop. I'll save. Pack. Photo. PHOTO. All right. Good. Now I've got that. All right. I can dump that. All right. Back to the meeting. All right. Hi. Good. That worked out. Thank you all very much. Okay, back to the agenda. The annual report that I had sent out had some edits on it. I have a revision from the previous version, but let's see, where's Court? Court's not here.
He's on his phone though.
Yeah, he said he was going to be on his phone soon.
Okay, all right, he's gonna get back on. Well, what I realized was after reading the minutes that the segments that Court in particular wanted to have added were not added to that report. So Court, are you back online? Can you hear me now?
I am on, yes, thank
Okay,
you.
good. I realized I was looking at the annual report and the segment that you wanted me to add on to it, the description of what's happening. I didn't get that into the draft report. So what I'm thinking about doing is giving you guys another draft next month. I haven't had any pushback about waiting until next month to get this finalized, but I wanted to know how you guys felt about that because we have a couple of updates we could go through with that. I can do a share screen and show you what the updates were. But from the minutes, you specifically wanted to have a couple of things added regarding, let's see, what was it? Okay, adding information about where the channels are located and how viewership has changed. Now, Court, I don't know if do you have the draft in front of you? Because if not, I can do a screen share and show you.
I do. I have the 1129 draft in front of
Okay.
me.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and put that up. And what I'm going to show is, if I can do this right, the changes from last month's version. Because if I can get this done, I'd like to do that. Let's see, where is this? Compare. Aha, there it is. Okay. Now let's see, hold it. Get that down. Okay, get that up. Okay.
Carlin, while you're doing so, I'm
Yeah.
about to get in my car.
Okay.
Forgive me, but sort of big picture, this is for the town report.
That's correct.
And on reading the 1129, it presumes that people know who we are and why we exist. And I think that's forever not going to be the case.
All right.
And so I think we should start with, PEG access in Concord is is MMN. Here's what MMN is and does, and here's how to find it. So it's a really, really basic primer on what it is and how to find it. So it presumes no prior knowledge.
Okay. All right, I see. Yeah, I've got the report on the screen right now. This is the 1129 revision. And what you're talking about is doing introduction about what PEG is essentially.
Or what MMN is, yes.
And what MMN is. Okay, all right.
And from a marketing perspective, okay, I'm interested. How do I go find it?
Right.
What it is and how to find it. Got it. Okay, I can make that addition as well. All right, I'm not going to do it on live editions right here, but what I'm going to do is revise it and I'll ship it out and we'll look at it at the January meeting because I think we're going to be able to wait until the January meeting on January 6th to take a vote on that. Thank you, Court. I appreciate that. Do any of the other committee members have other suggestions for this report? I mean, this is about how long it is as we normally do it.
I think Court's suggestions were very good. I'd like to review it again and, if indeed you're going to, finalize it in January, that's fine with me.
Okay, good. Appreciate that. Corey, how about you? Are you okay with us finalizing it at the next meeting in January?
Yes.
Good, then that's what we'll do. Scott, you're okay with that? Yes, your thumbs up. Okay, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
just wasn't sure my mic was open, so.
All right, I'm going to stop this screen share right now. There we go. Now we're back to normal and fine. It's 2:07. Moving around the time. Okay, that's what happens when you put stuff off. Hey, Scott, let's move over to you. If you advance for the fiber broadband completion task force update.
Sure. I've queued up a few things to kind of give people a sense of it. If you want to let me share the screen. Does that work for you?
Do you have a green share screen button down below on yours?
Yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, because I have nothing else up now. Go ahead.
What you should be seeing.
It's coming.
All right. Yeah, it looks like it's
Yep.
working. Okay.
Yep,
So
looks
what I'm
great.
going to show is just a few different things, extracts from different pieces of our work that's going on with the Fiber Completion Committee. The first one is actually taken from our minutes. Let me first start by giving you kind of an overview, which is you should be looking at a map, by the way, at this point. So while you don't have to study the map in detail, I just want to talk about what we're doing. So what we're doing is we've gathered up information. We have a system called GIS in the town of Concord, which is essentially a database of all houses, resident locations and so forth, that is sort of the definitive record of where everything is. And that database has been annotated with where access to fiber from the town exists. And so the committee has gotten as far as gathering all this data up and in a raw form and starting to analyze it. And there's a couple different ways we're looking at it. What I'm showing you now is a map showing some examples. Here's our favorite one, Concord Green. So Corey, we know that there's a survey that should be out to you right now that David Hessel is working on. You might want to check with him. Maybe it hasn't come out yet, but basically to understand what the opportunity is here. The general problem statement that we're trying to solve is how do we connect the rest of the homes that are not currently available, don't have access to the Concord fiber, to the fiber system, and maybe even make some recommendations about long range planning. So our committee is going to be providing an input to the Envision Concord, which is a long range planning activity. We view this as fundamentally a strategic capital investment, because most of the cost of putting fiber to the home is a capital investment, in that it's a capital investment in completing the connections to the specific homes. What we're finding is there are these pockets, as I've shown you here. Here's another one that's on Virginia Road, where if you look in the areas that are red, those are actually small question marks. If I zoom in, these are areas that are not currently served. The ones that are marked in green on these maps are served. So you can see here on Concord Green, around Concord Green is served, but Concord Green is not. This is one, if you know where McMillan Drive is, which is over in south part of Concord, but they have all underground utilities. They don't have service for fiber. So we've also found some other categories. Wright Farm Road, South Meadows, Concord Muse, which has been renamed, and I forget what the other name of Concord Muse is. But what we're doing is classifying these different areas and then doing the studies to see how we might solve that problem, and if there's some creative ways we can solve that, such as a cost-effective way of putting fiber underground, because it doesn't need to be buried like a power thing. It can be buried minimally. So some other things that we've been covering in the committee, just to pull these up, is we actually a couple weeks ago went through the original plan that I wrote back in 2013 for the Concord Broadband, which is this. I'm not expecting you to read this, but I'm just trying to give you a flavor for some of the details we've gone into. We've also gone through and reviewed the current financial model that I developed at that time. And this was to show when we would break even, when we would pay back the debt, and so forth. And so that's the activity we've been looking at. So we've been looking at it from a couple different dimensions. One, from the dimension of where are the unserved places now? How do we fund that? And how do we serve those? And one of the things I would say, which was kind of interesting about our Comcast conversation today, is the number of subscribers that we have is considerably below what is currently being serviced by the our footprint in terms of the number of people are signed up for Concord Broadband is considerably less than the 4,900 or so that Comcast has. So we're not doing great on that front. And this is actually one of the things that we've identified as a way to fund additional connectivity, which is if we can up the connectivity for those places that are already served, then that can create additional free cash that can in turn be used to invest to extend the connection of the town fiber. So that's kind of a summary of what's going on there. Work is continuing. We actually have our next meeting tonight. And we're working to, unfortunately the committee as a whole got compressed a bit because we weren't actually able to get started until June. And we are feeling that based on town meeting requirements, we're supposed to be done by January in order to provide the first round of recommendations. I'm kind of hoping that they actually extend our tenure as part of that recommendation, but that's to be determined. But that's the general activity that's going on now. I think I've given you a nice overview. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, that was really good, Scott. Any questions for Scott? And if not, Vince, do you want to follow up on it?
Well, yeah, I have a kind of a question for Scott, but I actually wanted to say that model that he presented, I haven't been able to sit in on many of the fiber broadband meetings, but that presentation you made, I think it was 2 meetings ago now, Scott, that's an incredibly flexible model, I think, that you created there.
Yep.
And it certainly looks like it still would be applicable going forward. I wonder, out of curiosity, how much effort do you think it would make to, update that model and, kind of use that as kind of the next step business plan?
So I'm definitely in favor of doing that. I can't say that we've met with the finance manager for Concord Light, and he's given us some top level numbers. I also understand from Mark, who was in this role for a period of time, was that he updated that model since the time that I developed it in 2013, but I don't have a copy of that model. We do have data that would allow me to start updating the model, but it's going to take a little bit of investment and time. And the short answer is absolutely yes. And for example, one of the assignments out of the last meeting, the last meeting we had, which was just before Thanksgiving, was for me to build a subversion of that model for Concord Green in particular, because one of the things we figured out for Concord Green is for non-campuses like Concord Green, the nominal installation cost is around $1,500. That's including the time and expense for the staffing to do the install, to get it from the pole to the optical network terminal, which is typically located in the basement of the facility, and hooking it all up. It turns out in Concord Green, there is a certain amount of conduit infrastructure in place, but there would be some additional needs there. They have a rough estimate of what that would take to do. And it actually, part of the survey that you heard me mention earlier would be to see what percentage of the Concord Green folks would actually sign up for it. And so we're looking at taking that model and using it as a way to say, hey, if we get 20% of the people on Concord Green to sign up for it, I think there's 260 residences in Concord Green. Corey, you might remember that number. Does that justify an investment by Concord Light to get those that are interested hooked up, or the infrastructure in place? Because so far, and this was by design, so far up to date, the Concord broadband was focused on the low-lying fruit in order to get to a profitability point. And so, as I mentioned, the subscription rate for Concord broadband is somewhere, I think it's around 2,000 now, maybe less. I'm sorry, I don't have the number on the top of my head. So that's less than half of what Comcast has in town. And one of the things that we've also identified in our work is that the value proposition of the fiber for many users is not completely clear, because unlike Comcast, who provides phone service, content, and broadband, and even alarm service, which is another subject matter, Concord Broadband from the Light plant only provides bandwidth. We purposefully designed it that way because we learned from some of the towns that we spoke to that the cost of providing content and the support of doing such things as email support or phone support was just didn't make sense at a town level. So what we did is we took a model that was very similar to what the light plant does. Light plant has wires between its head end and the house and delivers electrons for power. And we do almost the same thing from a data viewpoint. We have this infrastructure that sits between the head end and the house, and we deliver bits. So that's how we came to that model. That's not to say that it won't change over time, but that's been the model to date.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate that.
Scott, is there any other data that you're missing or in need of that, I might be able to help you with it?
Vince, I'm going to have the two of you talk offline about this. We can get back to,
Sure.
we need to start winding up here. Yeah, I'm sure there's something else.
Yeah, there was actually, Carlin, if I just
Go ahead.
grab 1 second here. So this is one other sheet that I forgot to present, but this is sort of the summary work that we've gotten out of the GIS database of those unserved locations. And then here's the detail of all the different locations that, some that we were considering that are part of this, but that just gives you a sense for the level of detail that's going on here. And yeah, so happy to take follow-up questions, or you can look at the YouTube recordings from Minuteman Media Network on our work. I'm done.
Good, good plug. All right, folks, let's get close to winding up here. Do we have any liaison reports? Court first, and then if you don't have anything, then we'll go to Carol. Any liaison?
No, nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay, Carol, what about you from the Council on Aging? Anything?
Well, actually, nothing much except one thing. The council is looking for some volunteers to take some memory training class. UCLA is offering these classes, and they've been offering them at the COA, and they've been oversubscribed. So they need some volunteers. The problem is tomorrow is the last day to register for taking these classes. It's a 4-week program. And when you're finished, then you can be a trainer at the COA. So if anybody's interested, I'll send you the information, but you have to make up your mind by tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Sounds good. Corey, did you have something?
I was just going to say I'm interested.
She's volunteering. Excellent. That's great. Okay, so Carol, Corey, you two talk.
Okay,
Great.
I'll email, yeah.
Okay, other public comments now. David, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, David.
Scott, you raise a very interesting possibility, namely that there is a positive gross margin, let me put it that way, to the addition of new subscribers for Concord Broadband. Do we know what that number is? Let me put it a bit differently. Every time you add, and you suggested that this could provide some funding for CapEx, every time we add a subscriber, that means, if that's to be a true statement, there will be as said, a contribution from gross margin. Do we know how much that is on a monthly or an annual basis, that gross margin, either percentage or dollar wise?
So the short answer is yes, and I can't hand you that number. I will tell you that and this has been a challenge for the Fiber Completion Committee charge was very carefully crafted and edited, and our charge does not necessarily mean that we're in a mode of commenting on the current operations of the Fiber Completion Committee. I will tell you that I was a bit surprised when we had the financial review to discover that the first 2 $1 million approvals against the fiber activity, Concord Fiber, went through town meeting. But subsequent to that, an additional $1.9 million loan was made from the light plant to the broadband business. And I frankly have yet to get an understanding of where the broadband business sits financially relative to all the loans and payments that have been made into it and the expenditures coming out of it. I think there's the reality. We talked about the business model I just presented briefly. The reality has been that the rate at which installs occurred is much, much less, namely because for basically the first year of COVID, there were no installs done at all, zero, none. They stopped, they've dead stopped. Now they've started back installing now. They're installing at about 30 to 40 a month is their goal. I think they're in the 20 to 30 at the moment. So there's some certain things that have dynamics that haven't been captured in the model, certain expenses that haven't been laid out that I think need to be laid out. And again, that's somewhat of an operational piece. It's a little bit beyond the scope of what the fiber completion committee charge represents, but it is something I'm curious about. My personal goal would be to have that model be accurate relative to the actual. A lot of our engineering planning that's done in the commercial world is as we lay out a project in a model like that, as time goes by, we replace the estimate with the actual. And so past data is actual, forward-looking data is based on looking at that actual and projecting it forward. And I'd like to do that with this model now that we have 7 years of operations under our belt.
On that question of loans, I can contribute, as Mark certainly knows, and I think you probably have access to as well. The original authorization by town meeting was $4 million. I think that's where you see those numbers come from. Let me also mention, you and I can take this up offline, of course.
Yeah, that's not actually correct, David. The 4 million was for the smart grid. It was actually 4.5, and 4 was spent. The authorizations for the broadband were 1 million, and the second tranche were 1 million.
Well, that's news to me, but we can.
Yeah, we should follow up offline, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Let me pass along that I've spoken to David Clark about the cost, which you and I know to be typically $1,500. Currently, there is new technology, and you will know David has been responsible for installing fiber around Western Massachusetts, one of his many roles. There is technology for trenching, which lowers pretty dramatically, apparently, those capital costs.
Yeah,
anyway,
we actually presented to the ditch witch concept, which is buries the cable only about 10 inches down, which is fine for pure fiber, and it's a very economical way to get fiber laid around without having to go through the the same kind of burial that takes place. So yes, we've actually that has been one of the things we've discussed.
Okay, folks, gentlemen, if there's more conversation, please take that offline. Frank, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. We're getting close to the very end. Go ahead.
Very quick, yeah. You know, in the old days, Carlisle used to send a check, I assume, to CCTV to find, for their portion of the cost of CCTV. How does Carlisle pay now for their services from MMN? Does anyone know that?
Yeah, Mark, can you help us with that? I have an idea, but go ahead, Mark, if you can.
Yeah, anytime during the month that we do work for them, we I have a list that we write down whatever we've done, and we send them a bill at that same rate. There may be other ways that are being done monthly, but as far as I know, anytime that we do any work, we send them a bill.
Okay, that was a good answer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've reached the end of our time. Unless there's something drastically pressing, could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move we adjourn.
Okay, Scott has moved it and Corey has seconded it. Let's do a roll call vote, please. Corey, how do you vote? Do you adjourn?
Yes.
All right. Vince, how do you vote?
Yes.
Hold on, Lois, did you have something else that you wanted to say? No. Okay. Sorry about that. This is the motion to adjourn. Scott, how do you vote to adjourn?
Aye, adjourn.
And Court, if you can hear us, how do you vote to adjourn?
Aye.
Okay, and I vote aye as well. All right, folks, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much. Thanks, Lois.
Thank you.